and good afternoon. This is a SkeetNet special with Mr. Eric Corkish, who is a champion of, I'd say, disabled rights.
Yeah.
On the Isle of Man, and of course there are certain things we can talk about and certain things we cannot.
Yeah.
So we have
We'll
to
just stay clear of all that.
We've got to move around that very carefully. But I think what we want to do really is just learn from you the challenges of being challenged on a mobility front on the Isle of Man. Just give us a rundown of your day-to-day business. Say if you're going just general stuff, going shopping, moving around.
It can make your life very hard. There's not always drop curbs in the right places. You know, when you're on a mobility scooter and you're going downtown, Ramsey isn't too bad. It needs a few adjustments to it. There's still shops you can't get into. You know, but I know people can only go so far with altering their facilities. You know, but when you get to Douglas and you go on the promenade, this is a new build of that promenade, and the amount of drop curbs they put in and disabled parking spaces is just ridiculous. I was up there this week again and I checked, and the bays for parking up by the casino and the Empress, there's room in a line for 42 cars in each bay, right? So I get out of my car in the middle, say I'm in 20th in that bay, I get my mobility scooter out, and to get onto the pavement, I've got to travel either backwards facing the traffic for 22 car lengths, or go forward to get to the next one, and that's 20 car lengths. So effectively, when the horse trams are running and there's live traffic there, I'll be holding all the traffic up to get onto the pavement because they haven't put enough drop curbs in. And it's the same question again. Why did they not talk to disabled people? Why did they just decide, oh, this'll do, and it won't do?
As a disabled driver, so we're talking about you're travelling to Douglas in your car.
Yeah.
You've got a motorised wheelchair. I take it.
It's a mobility buggy.
A mobility buggy. Sorry. So you've got that in the back of the car.
Yeah.
So first of all, you've got to find a parking space.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the moment, that's really difficult, isn't it? Really difficult, as it is. And this has been going on for 2 or 3 years, maybe more. And I think it was described as inconvenience by the minister. And I don't think he appreciated what inconvenience is.
No.
You know, this is an issue which causes a lot of pain and a lot of anguish.
They keep making the same mistakes over and over again. A couple of years ago, they did Market Hill down by Legion in Douglas, and they put a parking bay in there for disabled, right? One spot right at the end. They then put in a big square planter box right behind it. So I can't use that because I can't get my buggy in.
Because you're restricted.
Yeah.
You're restricted.
Why did that big planter have to be put right behind a disabled parking spot? It's just ridiculous.
Was it moved? Do you know if it's been moved? I'm not really familiar with that area, but
I don't remember what was there before.
Yeah.
But I know that when it was all done up, that's what did, because that road was shut for quite a long time.
Okay.
You know, and I used to go past that on the bus, but you know, now I've actually seen it. I've gone to park there. Okay, if I don't need my buggy, but yeah. And the other thing that they've done, and they haven't bothered to look at the history of it, in Regent Street, where the post office used to be, there's 3 parking spaces there for disabled people for 30 minutes a time.
Oh, so the disabled bays are limited?
Yep, they there are for 30 minutes. And you know why? Because he never looked. The history of them parking spots was when the post office was there, disabled people or pensioners went there, went in the post office, come out and drove away. You can do that in 30 minutes. What is the use of a disabled parking space for 30 minutes for anybody?
So are we looking for like para-Olympians only who can do the shopping in 30 minutes?
Well, it seems to be, and on the new part, just round the corner from there, on the promenade where they've done it, they put 5 parking bays all together. No others, none further up, none further down, 5 all together.
So kind of corralled them all in one space?
Yeah, and they've put a lowered curb in, but again, they're not listening because they've left a lip of about 1.5 inches, which is just right for tripping people up. Instead of being level with the road, they left a lip there. They did this in Market Hill in Douglas, and after the complaints, they had to go and get a roll of black and red danger, what do you call them, stripe, and they've had to put that on the brand new paving done in.
So we're talking about being inclusive and thinking about everyone in the community, but the impression I get, and certainly from how you describe it, that you and the disabled community are separate.
Yeah. There is good things, and you've got to say the swimming pool in Ramsey is brilliant. The swimming pool in Douglas and the gym and the spa, everything's done there that can be done for disabled people. You know, they've got a machine which will lower people into the pool. You actually go in on the chair. I don't need to do that. Once I take my leg off, I just go in on my backside. But they do real good deals. Yeah, and the membership, you get a lower rate. You know, but everything there is done for you. If you ask for something, it's done. Not like most places where if you ask for something, nothing happens.
So I'll just talk about accessibility. And it's quite funny that we've met up today. Well, not funny, ironic. I've been handling a tourism group, and one of the group has got a mobility issue and is staying at one of the hotels in Douglas, where the outside is completely covered with roadworks. So there's only, say, 50 yards. That's the closest that you can get with the vehicle to allow them to get out. Then the road surface around there is rough. The terrain is difficult. If you've got to wheel one of those walkers around, or a wheelchair. And then when you look at some of the hotels, the accessibility isn't very easy, is it? You know, with steps and maybe not that the ramps are carefully placed. I don't know, is it a legislation issue, or is it the fact that maybe we're just a little bit lazy?
I think in some ways, I think the people are lazy and they don't ask the right people of what they should do. Obviously, some of these hotels, in Douglas in particular, you've got 5 or 6 steps up to them. There's not a lot they can do. You know, they need a lot of money off the government to be able to make them all disabled friendly. You know, and you have to accept that there is some things that can't be done, but there is things that should be done that aren't done.
Well, I think certainly for a hotel, if they were expected to shell out, say, £20,000 on, you know, constructing the access, the ramp or what have you, it's a big ask, especially at these times when, you know, our tourism season has been blighted. But maybe if there was some government help to perhaps push things the right way.
Well, it would help, but the government aren't doing anything themselves, are they? You know, when they're doing this with parking slots. And it's a strange thing. I've spent a lot of time in House of Keys and Tynwald for one reason or another this year, or for the last 2 years. And the disabled access into the House of Keys is diabolical.
Go on, tell me. That's interesting.
To start with, there's an uneven step at the front door. Then, when you're in the building, you turn right to go into the seating for the House of Keys.
I know where you're going.
There's nowhere there to put a wheelchair. I can't bring my buggy in.
It's
there.
quite tight, isn't it? Yeah,
I
that's
can't
right.
bring my buggy, so I have to walk in. And fair enough, I can walk. You know, limited to not very far. Everybody, I think, has the idea that I play golf, so I can walk for miles. I can't. If it wasn't for a buggy I use, you know, and you stop where your ball is, and then you stop at the green, you know, that's how I managed to play. But the actual access into Tynwald, into the House of Keys is poor. Into Tynwald, you have to go up 3 flights of stairs. But I think, in fairness, there is a lift.
There is a lift,
but you don't actually get into the room. You're then looking down through a glass window.
I know. Yes.
So you're not actually in the room. You don't feel that you're there.
I think many of us have had the tour of Tynwald, which is worth doing. Will have seen that, but it's you know, it's a real eye opener, Eric, speaking to you, where I just walk around. I just walk around where I want. But hearing your side of things,
into Upper Douglas, up round Bucks Roadway and all them side streets, because I mean, I had to buy that car to be able to get to Douglas. People
You
will
had
know
to buy the
story.
vehicle. It's a different vehicle, is it?
Yeah, I had to get a vehicle that I could use. Can't go into why and everything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But I bought that vehicle, so I can now bring me bigger scooter to Douglas, not the golf one, like the middle one.
Yeah.
And then I just go and wander around Douglas for an afternoon. And the amount of times when you go on up Pinwell Street, name any streets up there, there's
Yeah.
no drop curbs on corners. There's nothing. When you come down the promenade, not the promenade, the quay, they did all that quay up with all that fancy stone paving.
Yeah.
It's like going down a ploughed field when you're on a buggy.
Go on, explain.
Well, they've got a gap in between each like that, where they fill it with sand or cement or whatever.
I know what you mean.
It's now
like a
it's
crazy
like,
paving
it's going
type thing.
across this here.
Yeah.
You know, this bump, bump, bump,
Yes.
all the
I
way.
understand.
You know, and it's just ridiculous. And then if you're coming down on the left hand side, and you want to carry on down the quay, you have to turn, go up to Quine's Corner, press the button, wait for the lights to change, go across the road, and then come down the other pavement onto the quay again.
I understand.
For,
Yes.
for the
yes.
sake of a couple of drop curbs.
So, you're aware of any people in the same boat who've got mobility issues? Do they have similar difficulties?
Yeah. And if you look around Ramsey now, the amount of people using mobility scooters must have trebled in the last year.
Well, I think the technology allows people to get out, which
Yeah.
is a great thing. The technology is more affordable. And I can see maybe people have been, constrained. They've been at home and they've thought, well, hang on, I can just buy one of these now.
Yeah.
I can get out, and it gives that freedom. So we've had a situation on the Isle of Man where things have changed. There's more people using these mobility scooters and wheelchairs and what have you. And we've got to adapt and change, haven't we?
But you've also got the thing, and I don't know how many people know it, but you ought to know it. The Equality Act came into the Isle of Man last year. At the beginning, it'd be the beginning of this year actually, wasn't it? Now that's come in, and you can take people to court if they're not treating you equally. So people have to adjust. You can't just say anymore, oh, we don't want you in here, or no, you can't get in here. The Equality Act is there, and it's being used, and there's an equality tribunal, and it's there, and people are going to have to use it. If they're not going to do the change that they should be done, then they should be taken to court.
But that sounds quite daunting. So how easy would it be? I mean, do you have to employ a lawyer? Because that can be expensive, or is it facilitated by someone who can see that help is needed?
You go to the Equality Act, or the Equality Tribunal, is actually run through the Office of Fair Trade. And they act as a mediator, and they try and solve problems before it gets to court. If they can't do that, it then goes to the Equalities Tribunal, which is effectively the tribunal for, I can't think what you call it now, for work and
like arbitration or something.
yeah. But they have the tribunal, the employment tribunal.
Yeah.
But it's the same people, the employment tribunal and now the Equalities Tribunal. They're done the same way, and by the same people. And normally, something they can arbitrate and it'll be sorted out, And if it doesn't, I don't think there's been one under the Equality Act yet that's gone to court. But that's there, and anybody can use it now. And of course, the government aren't publicising that because they don't want everybody coming and making complaints all the time.
Well, there could be a tidal wave of cases, I guess.
Well,
so
there could be, but one of the disappointing things is, and I'm not in danger of doing anything wrong here, in Tynwald in April, Chris Thomas put a motion before the court that Tynwald is of the opinion that the Isle of Man bus service, Bus Vannon, will adopt and use the Confederation of British Passenger Transport that is used in England. There was a debate on it in Tynwald, went on for over an hour, and at the end of that debate, the agreement was that they would set up, they agreed that it has to be done, and they set up a steering group to do this.
Yeah.
Like, we're going back to April. Claire Christian was appointed the head of that committee. I went to Douglas, I had a meeting with her, everything went perfect.
Was that Claire Christian or Claire Barber?
Claire Christian,
okay.
the new MHK.
Oh, yeah.
Right. She's chairing this.
Yeah.
So, wrote to her a couple of times and she would answer, and I spoke by email, and the last message I got was, I'm waiting for the minutes of the meeting to come back to me. So this is from April, we're now into July.
Yeah.
So on Tuesday, there's a question in Tyndall's being put by Chris Thomas again, and what he's asking for is, has the steering group met? Who's on it? Have they had a meeting? Have they discussed the problems with anybody else? Have they spoken to disabled people? And that question is down with a written answer. Obviously, it's the last Tyndall before it's all dissolved, you know. Well, I can see that they've got their electioneering to do. They need to get around the houses to get votes to get back in. But as far as I'm aware, they still get paid until September. And if you're running a committee that should have been set up in April, we're now into July, and I'm no further as to what's been done, what's been said, have they talked to anybody, you know. And if they're not talking to the likes of me and other people with disabilities, because it's not just that, it could be blind people, you know, if they're not doing that now, why aren't they?
I think it'd be really useful to know the size of the community who are affected by these matters. I think, is it what, 5,000 people on the Isle of Man?
You'll never know. This is the problem, because as you say, all disabilities can't be seen. You know, that is true.
So I think it would be fair to say that we've not been quick at dealing with how we design things, how we facilitate transport. We're not really thoughtful. We're not asking those people in the community who really have the answers, like yourself.
Yeah. There's a saying that Chris Thomas said in one of the last interviews. That's absolutely right if you're talking about disabled people, and it is nothing about us without us.
Yeah.
Don't go making decisions for us. You know, your idea of what will help a disabled person could be totally wrong.
I'll make a bit of a confession, and it's only when you have to transport people with disabilities and have difficulties getting around, and when you come across it through the nature of your work, or you'd say if you know somebody, you know, in your friendship circle or in your family, if you're not experiencing that and not looking out for it, you ain't going to see it.
No.
Are you?
No. I could sit here and list you 100 things of what happens, you know, when you do something. And there was a case, and it did affect me. You know, coming out of a shop in Ramsey, and there was a loose curb, and I had sandals on, and I tripped on the loose curb. Right, so I cut my face, hurt me hip, and broke my toe. And that's over one trip hazard. I didn't do anything about it. What's the point? You know, people knew that what had happened. It's still there. You know, nobody's moving it. You can put in as many documents as you want, you know, on this report a problem, but you never hear anything back from them.
It seems that they're maybe not looking the right way.
No, and they need to be with things like that. I mean, I'm not saying I want to be on every committee that involves disabled people, and I know they do have a person from the road licensing department who is he's not a civil servant, he's a lay person, but I don't know whether he's disabled or not. I actually don't think he is, but there's enough disabled people around that they could ask. You know, they don't have to do everything we say, you know, but just a little bit at times. I mean, I go on the electric railway and I've been on the steam railway, and I totally accept you can't get a mobility buggy on the steam railway, and you can't get it on an electric tram.
Because of the 1870
Yeah,
engineering
exactly.
at the time
So
didn't
I'm quite
cater for
happy.
it. Yeah.
If I want to go out for a run, I did it a couple of weeks ago on the tram. So it was on a Sunday. I went from Ramsey up to Douglas, left me buggy at the tram station in Ramsey, went up on the tram. 10 minutes later, the tram turns around. I come back home again. And that suited me. I've been through all the countryside. I know I can't take me buggy. I don't want to take me buggy. You know, people have this idea, you're always asking for more and more. You've got to be reasonable, and being reasonable is what it's about. You know, I can't ask them to make something to let me on a tram or a steam train. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's got to be proportionate and reasonable, and there is no money tree, as we know, to deal with everything, but it's just those reasonable things to allow people to have the right quality of life, the right accessibility. So it's things like getting to the shops for your essentials and your necessities. If you're struggling with mobility and you can't do that, then there is something wrong, isn't there?
I know of a shop, I'm not going to name the shop, and it was, you remember when the post offices were closed and the spar shops?
Yeah.
And it was said, well, actually, you're going to have to name it. It was in Ramsey, right? And they said they put the post office at the back of the spar shop, and you would be able to get in and out of there in a wheelchair or a mobility buggy.
Yeah.
Go and try it. See
It's
how
a
far
bit
you can
tight, is it? Well, maybe.
Well, they put the things in the middle, and they must be doing good trade because they're stocking up all the time you're in there. You've got a job to walk between the boxes sometimes.
Well,
You know, and that's not what the agreement was when they two go with the post office. But again, you've got to be reasonable. You know, they've got to stock the shelves.
I think that's something which should be highlighted, and you know, disabled champions, should we say, should be on the ball and have a mechanism where they could go straight to the head office and actually say, look, you know, can you just sort this out? And if someone's got, you know, some strong leadership and some sway and some influence, and these things can get done. But quite often, I don't know, do you find that you ring places up and someone answers the phone and you think, this isn't going anywhere, is it?
No.
Yeah.
And that is what happens. And I'll give them a due in Ramsey swimming pool. I was going there, and the seat was a bit narrow, and it's like when I sit and take my leg off, you're going to fall forward. And the manager happened to be about that day, and I just pointed out to him what was wrong, and I said, if you fitted a handrail on that wall there, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
The next day I went in, it was done.
Great.
You know, and that's how it
It's
should
great.
be. But
So-
unfortunately, not everybody works
Well,
with the same
but
standards.
we know in government where, and if you had to make an addition to the premises, in some places, to have it done the next day is inconceivable.
Yeah.
It's totally inconceivable. You're looking at, you know, it could take a month maybe with a barrage of paperwork and risk assessments and budgets and quotes and everything, rather than just getting the job done.
It's a strange thing, you know, and I'm not looking for sympathy, I don't want sympathy, but I get treated better in the summer by other people because I've got shorts on. They see my leg, see you have a problem. In the winter, I think people say, look at that lazy bugger on a mobility scooter.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a strange thing, but that always, and people hold the door open for you. You know, and it's just a perception that they can see what's wrong with you. If they can't see what's wrong with you, they don't bother with you.
But I think as well, a lot of people are afraid of disability because they don't understand it. They don't know how to react.
Yeah.
And if you speak to, and I'm speaking from personal experience, you speak to a member of a group and one person, say, is in a wheelchair or visibly disabled. Or sometimes your head is like playing games in that you're thinking, I can't say something that'll trip myself up kind of thing, because I'm going to say something about going for a walk or going for a run or bike rides or talking about things like that, and that person then will be excluded from the conversation. And I find that sometimes that can cause you to be a little bit, you know, not rude, but
it's like using the word handicapped instead of disabled. And to be absolutely honest, to me, it makes no difference to me. You know, when I'm playing golf here with the fellows I play with and the people you know downtown, and somebody say, oh yeah, I've got a leg to stand on, it's funny.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to take offence at it, but I think people do need to be careful if they see somebody who's disabled to ask them, do they need a hand, not just go
Yeah.
and do it for them. You know, because that
Yeah.
can be patronising in some ways, can't it?
It's very difficult, and I think the direction to travel in is just to be open, thoughtful, and have conversations like this, because even you know we're just coming up to the end now. We're up to 25 minutes, and you've saturated my mind with your experiences, and I'm a much better
But
person. I think, you know.
all in all, life is pretty good. You know.
Yeah.
You can do a lot more here than you do in other places. I enjoy my life. I don't let this disability get me down. I don't let it me do something. You know, okay, I have rants and pretty well
you're
known for
entitled
it.
to.
You know, and that's the way it is. I'm enjoying my life. People should enjoy their life, but they should be allowed the ability to do it.
So, is there anywhere that people can go to for help? You know, about which mobility option to choose, or is there societies, or maybe something through the medical services that people can go to?
No, I don't think so. There is some answers I could give there, but I can't. So we'll have to park that one.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, for anyone that's watching,
there is a disabled champion in Tynwald. I think it's Jane Poole Wilson.
Oh gosh, and what a great candidate she is in the forthcoming elections.
Well, can we touch on that then?
No.
Why? You've got two MLCs standing by the House of Keys. Neither of them have resigned. Tanya August Hansen said that she had too much work to do and she didn't want to leave Legislative Council with people short.
Is that no? She's had the baby, hasn't she?
She's standing for the MHK. It is her, isn't it?
No, it's Kate Lord Brennan in Peel. I
Yeah.
could be mistaken.
Right. No, you're
I could
right.
be mistaken.
Them two are standing as an MHK, and they said there's too much work, so they want to stay there because they're still doing the work up till September. In all honesty, they should resign the day before the election.
Nail the colours to the mast. I understand where you're coming from, but when you look at their input as MLCs, they've actually been constructive and good, and to perhaps risk everything on an election. And let's face it, you don't know which way it's going to go. I mean, you look at who's been elected in the past. It could go anyway.
It's
but
something that doesn't seem right to me.
Well, we've got similar instances, with the position of president and, holding out for this and that and the other.
I watched that the other night, the hustings.
Yeah,
I watched that for an hour. It was very interesting.
It's a tricky one, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, there was a very good thing said in it.
Go on. Go on.
Mr. Watterson said how much he enjoyed showing people around Tynwald and all the school kids. He does all this and he knows the history of Tynwald.
Excellent,
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm an
so
ambassador.
one of the members asked him, one of the House of Keys members asked him, does he not think a wage of 70,000 is a bit much for a tour guide?
There's a lot of pageantry associated with that role, and some people may say it's perhaps a little bit dated and perhaps the speaker and the president's role could be combined. Is the actual list of duties for MHKs, should it be a little bit more prescriptive? Should it be that they shouldn't have roles and responsibilities that perhaps detach them for their duties to look after their constituents? There are things like that.
I had that situation.
Yeah.
Where the person, my MHK, couldn't act for me because he's a member
Of the department.
Well, he was a minister.
Yeah.
So now he's taking action against the minister, against the government, and that happened that way. But you're always going to get conflicts of interest, aren't you, here?
But you are, and we're coming up to an election, and where it's wondering exactly the public. So you take an interest in politics, I do, but as a percentage of the population, a percentage of the electorate, we must be only in like 5%, 10% who really follow what's going on. When we're perhaps, having a game of golf or chatting to your friends, down at the local hostelry, when it comes to a knowledge of politics and what's going on, the detail isn't there sometimes, is it?
No. They'll know something was headlines in the paper or
Yeah.
headline on the radio, but you don't know no more. You know, I mean, I listen to Tynwald, I read Hansard, you know, and it's quite interesting sometimes.
Hansard is the go-to place, isn't it? If you want to know exactly what your MHK or MLC has been up to, there's a great search engine facility, and you can hand-pick topics that may interest you, but also really go into the detail over what was said.
Yeah. And if you go in now to Hansard, look up Legislative Council, Hansard, right, off the meetings they've had for the last 3 months, not one of them lasted over an hour.
So there you have it, an hour. That is, and there's quite a salary, a generous salary.
60,000.
60 grand.
I mean, I know they do have committee meetings and everything. You know, they have in departments and everything, but the actual meeting, while the house keys haven't theirs, we know how long they take and how long Tynwald takes. But you know, the last 3 have been less than an hour for legislative council.
But when we talk about the position of MLC, these people have been cherry-picked by members of government. Okay. So are they going to choose someone who is going to upset the apple cart, ask the question, you know, be really probing? Are they going to choose someone who is going to be a real problem, you know, to what they're doing? And
No, they're not.
I've seen some good commentary from the MLCs. You know, I think the analysis of how the COVID situation was dealt with and so forth, and lots of other topics. But what actual outcomes are we seeing? Are we seeing any real changes at the top level?
Well, I think one of the people who are changing it, there is a few, but I'll know best is Chris Thomas, and he took the decision that he would lose being a minister to vote against something that he believed in. And he took that, and he obviously lost that extra money, and he was no longer a minister. And you look at how many questions and what he's involved in, you know, and that's what MHK should be.
And I think if you looked at the questions, he has asked the most inquiring questions. I think, along with, say, Julie Edge, I think she's been
Laurie Hooper's
an
been
inquiry.
very good.
Laurie Hooper is great. I can listen to him all day long, and I think, you know, the North.
But you see, what's happening now, after this next election, there is no upgrade for being a minister. You know, there's no extra money. All you're getting is the salary's going up, isn't it, to 70 and 60, 70. Whereas before you had to be, like Chris Thomas took a pay cut because he wouldn't do as he was told. This can't happen anymore, because as of this September, the wages are the same whether you're a minister or whether you're a member of a ministry. You know, so now there won't be the people now chumming up to and thinking, I can get a bit of extra money.
Exactly. And there is that block vote that has been so evident. But I think
the block vote that's used every time to stop questions being asked. You know, every time. And I don't agree with what they do, because it was 12-12 and he said, no, we're not going to carry on with questions. It should be a straight majority.
And that number hasn't come around by accident, has it?
No.
That is designed, you know, it's been kind of
you've got
selected.
9 ministers, is it? I think 3 wannabes.
Yeah.
And that's it. You can't push anything through, and the wannabes won't do it because they want to be a minister.
But I mean, just to finish off, we'll talk about candidates, and I'm surprised that we haven't had a wider field of candidates who are perhaps credible. I mean, we've got some candidates who are mind-boggling, really, with their background around the island, but we won't name any names, that wouldn't be fair. But when you look at, say, I think, is it 65,000 salary, and then there's going to be expenses and bits and bobs on top of that. So they're probably going to be looking at around about 75,000, which in these times isn't a huge amount of money compared to where good, capable people can earn in various aspects, either in the finance community or through their own businesses and what have you. And you wonder whether, is there another mechanism? Should they reduce the amount of MHKs, say, by half and double the salary? Would you get better candidates fair representation? Who knows?
I don't know, but I do know, people say, oh yeah, they're getting all this money, but it's almost a 24-hour day job, isn't it? When you're sat in your house at 9 o'clock and your phone goes, and it's one of your people who want something done about their bins.
And are they phoning up to congratulate you on the fantastic work that the government is doing? I doubt it. I think you're going to be getting 10 emails a day, so that's, say, 300 a month to deal with.
Yeah.
And numerous phone calls, antisocial hours, unsociable hours. It's quite a challenge.
Attend every garden party, every Christmas fair.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't even go along that line, playing the community role just for, piecemeal politics. I think if there's a reason to get involved in something, fair enough, but your time is important. And if you're not going to be spending time
I think
doing
everybody's
things
being
that you
very
want to do.
slow this time, in nominations.
Yeah.
There's only the two and Ramsey are sitting members. There's nobody else come out in Ramsey yet.
But they're super strong, aren't they? Super strong. I mean, Dr. Alistair, Allinson, he is super strong. He's so communicative. I think if he'd been handling the podium through the pandemic, I think maybe the mood could have.
That's a whole new story.
The mood
so I don't think we'll
could
go
have been,
there.
but having that professional background, the medical expertise.
But it is one of these things, isn't it? You've got a doctor of his ability. Shouldn't he be in charge of health? Shouldn't the ones who've been nurses be in the hospitals? And you've got finance people that should be into finance, but they don't. They do the opposite, don't they?
I think the doctor is the critical issue. I think because I must admit, as a communicator, he does well. As a constituency, I think Ramsey is well represented with Laurie as well. There's a good balance, and hence maybe there isn't any opposition because I think they know maybe
there will be.
It's too strong. You think so?
Yeah.
You heard it first. Right.
It won't be me. That's a certainty.
Right. I think we've wound the clock down.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I've learnt something today, and I hope you have too. That is Eric, who is our champion of the North and beyond. If you've got any comments, please put them in the box and share the broadcast. So we'll catch up again maybe when will the weather be as good as this? Who knows?
Well, you never know, do you?
Lovely stuff.